Can I ask a question? Related to all of these, you guys are focusing on the smaller players right now. How are they going to manage to compete with the land-based players, for example, in the U.S.? I mean, I can understand how the large Norwegians can, but how are they smaller players going to compete? Because they have probably much higher costs than the land-based players, at least in the U.S.
Yeah,
I'm curious, right?
There will be consolidation, Ignacio. So there will be fewer and larger companies. I think also there will be more of kind of like that people will share infrastructure. So that and we can see that from Norway that there are many examples of that people have successfully shared infrastructure. So that is another way to compete. But at the end of the day, you are competing with the global industry because the salmon has a global price and it's a commodity. And
well, that's for now. That has been the traditional model, right? Yeah. The risk here is, you have the Teslas of salmon coming up, right? That are going to disrupt the market because they are suddenly starting to churn out some fish, right? They are right next to the large population centers, and then how are the traditional, gas engine type producers going to react to that? I still don't know. I mean, I do not have an answer, but I know that something is going to happen. And as an M&A, dedicated person, I want to read the future. I don't want to be in the past.
Right, Ignacio, I was keen to revert the question to you as you look so closely at the Americas region, and you're seeing these, major land-based projects emerge. And actually, I was very keen, before we get to the outside Q&A, I was keen to ask you about these, the opening up of the new Canadian coastal provinces and how you, and also the Chileans, and how you feel that all of these players will compete on a cost basis.
Well, I think that's the question of the moment, right? I mean, if you look at all, we see a number of business plans for the up and coming guys, or some of the ones that are already established, and they are starting to churn out some fish, and everyone is aiming to take 10% of the U.S. market only. The problem is that when you have 5 or 6 of those, suddenly you have 50% of the U.S. market only. But then the Norwegians are going to react, and they have a lot of money, and the Chileans are going to react, and they have a lot of money, and they are large. So how is the market going to change over the next 5 years? That's the as an M&A question, that's what I want to understand, because I want to get ahead of the game and provide clients with opportunities there. I think that the right move for some of the traditional players is to make the General Motors move. You will have to go and buy into and invest into some of these land-based guys to get ahead of the game to your competitors. Otherwise, again, you're going to lag behind. I mean, you're going to be driving a traditional model in a world where there's disruption going on, and you just cannot ignore it. I mean, history will run you over.
This question actually over to Kjetil, because I know that you've had an awful lot of first-hand experience with the land-based players, and the last time we spoke a couple of years ago in New York, that your firm had just bought Billund, which has been a major player in building these plants. I mean, what's your best guess on how the RAS, the big new RAS players, will come in on a cost basis and compete with coastal farming?
First of all, like, a lot of things have changed since we bought into Billund, and I left the Billund board last summer, and there's been tremendous changes in the order book from and the type of facilities which were there. But first of all, just would like to comment on the fact that my view is that Movi is probably the largest land-based player. So they have most fish on land. They just put it into the sea when it's at a certain size. So I see a lot of competence development and R&D happening inside certain small facilities around the world. So from my perspective, all large farmers are just experimenting and building competence, ready to make the move when the time is right. And when it comes to the large kind of the new players, the Teslas, which were mentioned here, I don't see volume coming out in the market which will disrupt the price in the near future. So I see that current land facilities produce around 50% of the design capacity. And I think that will be also the fact a few years from now. And I also have experience with building such facilities, which I usually use to like 2 + 2 + 2 rule, like 2 years of just planning, 2 years of building, and at least 2 years to get the facility up and running. So in the future, of course, the supply-demand curves will meet, and it will be an issue for Norwegian's airborne salmon in. But at the current pace we are at, and the current projects which have started construction, I don't see any like issues in the 5-year future for Norwegian salmon to not be competitive when it comes to price. And also land-based facilities, when it comes to price, it's all about scale, of course. And we haven't seen anyone producing at such a scale which will actually meet the costs which we have seen in Norway yet. So when it comes to cost, of course, we need to see how the kind of the big 10,000 tons facility is developing. Do they actually produce 10,000 tons? Because then we will see actually what is the actual costs, because we have never seen costs which actually are comparable, because it's all in Excel spreadsheets at the moment. So yeah, so for me, it's still a way to go. It's very, very interesting to see how the largest players will react. But I don't see any I don't see in the next 5 years that we have anything which will affect kind of the price and the competitiveness of the Norwegian industry. But of course, maybe in 10 years we will have some movements when the volume from land-based and kind of the land-based facilities which are close to markets are actually producing at the capacity which they are designed for, and therefore can meet a cost per kilo which is relevant.
Right.
I think that I heard a similar comment about Tesla 3 years ago, but it's okay.
Jørgen,
I got one part in my garage here, so I don't know. I think that this is going to go much, much, much faster. I think that if I were a small player, I would be very worried. I think that if you look at the history of, producing fish right now, I mean, you can go and almost buy the technology. I mean, we're getting to that point where, it's not that complex. I would be, I'm much more optimistic that land-based is going to grow much faster because they are learning very fast, again, from the mistakes made in the past by other people. And I would worry, how do I get that product to the market and make money selling my fish? I mean, at a point in time, selling fish is going to be, producing a commodity. How to get it to the market, add value, satisfy my clients, and make money consistently. I think that it's where the situation is going to be. And I remember there was a phone company called Nokia at the time. That was actually 90% market share.
This is a good trend, Ignacio, because the world needs more fish and more salmon. The demand for fish is endless. So if the land-based guys can get control of the cost and produce at a competitive cost, then that's just a fantastic news, and it will grow the market because there's no end in sight.
Yeah, the question is, is the market, are they going to outgrow the market? And then you're going to have, a price crash that is going to restructure the market. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Again, as an M&A professional, that's, I want to see the disruption, and I want to get my clients ahead of the disruption, be prepared, bring them ideas, and get, and get ahead of the curve. Really, I mean, that's the whole aim of M&A: get ahead of the curve.
I think
we have to speak like that. They are cost competitive and able to produce at a market cost, and then we worry about the rest.
I think here we still are in the sweet spot on what kind of protein we are producing, and salmon is a fantastic protein. So my concern is really on marine infrastructure and planning, engineering, and really concluding on all the projects. There are 4 deliverables that needs to come into play when it comes to getting these projects off the ground, and those 4 are really, getting the permits, getting the water rights, really doing the work on the sites, and looking at the angle. And I think, as you are saying, Kjetil, regarding the time it will take before we have significant volumes in this market, it probably will take even more than 3 to 5 years.
But 0.3% of the salmon production was produced on land in 2019. So there's at least a couple of years to build and a couple of years to start production. So I can't see any volume which will disrupt the market in the next 5 years at all. I don't see how it's practical to do so.
Jørgen, just for you to know, I'm sitting right now at my home. And I'm 45 minutes away from one of the probably largest salmon producers in the U.S., which is Atlantic Sapphire. They don't have any access to seawater. They have a marvelous company going there. I mean, it's pretty amazing what they did. Absolutely. Yes, it was expensive because it was the first, gigafactory, right? Just like Tesla, the first one was expensive. The other one is taking them, 6 months to build, and again, no access to seawater, right next to Miami, major center of consumption, and they are sitting right next to a papaya plantation.
Yeah.
So I don't need to be in the Nordics anymore to eat very good salmon.